All right. Peace and blessings, Asafo, the Success Scholar, Honorable One, Asafo, Haki Shakur. I'm me here. Thank you for tuning in, listening in. Uh, I want to do this piece. It's going to be part two, Amos Wilson versus Dr. Boyce Watkins, uh, stock market investing. Now, I know that sometimes it's hard when we're used to sound bites and not actually able to get a full gist of these complex conversations. But I want to subtitle this. Yay! Okay, my little sister. Shout out. She's going to be working with Keys Development in Baltimore. Shout out to my little sister. Uh, I want to subtitle this Dr. Boyce Watkins would be powerful and even more greater if he would take the time to study the work and teachings of Dr. Amos Wilson in Blueprint for Black Power. Now, and I don't know, but I listened to enough of several people's conversation where I realized that if certain people would just make a level of shift in their analysis. So this is kind of like me actually being a long distance advisor, um, because I realized that many people who are out here may not necessarily have the level of confidence to question a finance professor that have their PhD in finance. So it truly would take someone with a level of deep rooted confidence and awareness, and as well as consciousness, and being competent enough and have enough communication skills. And not that I am on network television speaking about these issues, because of course there has been a concerted effort to destroy the work of Dr. Amos Wilson. And so, from, of course, yes, many of those who in the Baltimore area who recently had Dick Gregory into town again, as well as many of these speakers that are out here that are running around quoting Dr. Amos Wilson's work, but not giving him the proper attributes, as well as many of the individuals that want to deflect and create other issues that are going on. But let me get into this conversation. And, and I know it is 900 pages. Um, and I realize that not many people have the time to read this, but, maybe we need to take down the videos about rappers and talking about Get Out, talking about the Oscars, the Emmys, and talking about fences, and maybe we need not make all these videos for the ignorant masses to spend all their time caught up in what Lil Wayne said to what the hell. Or Chris Brown and Soldier Boy, doing videos about that. I see some of these people doing things like that, like the psychologist gentleman taking pictures with the people from the Power series, that disgusting movie. One time I was interested. I mean, actually, I'm a digress, but just curious. I was thinking, I read the theme line or something to that effect. I'm sorry, the synopsis of a drug dealer trying to get out of the game, I guess. And I applaud anyone that wants to overcome a dysfunction and poisoning people. I looked at it. I was coming from Cleveland, actually. I stopped at my uncle's, and I was like, Ain't nothing to do. I've been hearing people talk about this power. Uh, so let me look at it. First thing I see was a sex scene in the first 5 minutes of the film, of the television series. So, when people are taking pictures with the stars from that film, I have to realize that sometimes these young scholars here are more entertainers, more wannabe rappers, So this is, the difference between, the mature scholars out here that you all need to be supporting, and the entertainers slash wannabe rappers, but they couldn't rap, so they had to, shall I say, they had to start speaking. So I'm just gonna just highlight a few chapters. I didn't have a whole lot of time to go through this, but wait a minute. It's the chapter 5, page 503, 504. But let me kind of read a little bit. African American community nakedness before its enemies is due to the failure of vision, and will clothe itself and shield its loins with the armor of nationhood. Its failure to protect its fleshly part with the sword and shield of hard-cast African-centered consciousness and racial solidarity. It has for too long dangerously denied the reality of its exclusion from full participation in the predominant white American nation within a nation, as well as the nation as a whole. The African American community with other non-white ethnic tribes and clans helps to constitute an ever more multicultural, racial, diverse United States, a society whose states are united but whose people are not. But being largely excluded from full participation in American society is that primary source of relative weakness and vulnerability to the African American community. Its principal source of powerlessness is its astute, obtuse refusal to conceptually and socially utilize the perceptions of itself as a nation within a nation, and thus utilize its ostracism to its advantage as its major instrument of power. Now, let me go again a little bit later. So you should be, listening to this. This is probably the most critical video that anyone will ever do for this whole year. And I know that there's a lot of spooky, weird type of things, but you all have to focus. You have to focus your analysis, focus the broadness. I'm sorry, not be so broad in terms of, and I'm sharing that because at one particular time, and I'm paying a price for the early lack of focus and lack of clear analysis and solid critical thinking. All right, now, okay. African American community as a de facto third world nation. That's a subchapter here. The destinies of individuals, families, subgroups, subcultures in the African American community are not constrained by structural characteristics of the white American dominated society, but are more immediately constrained by their self-determinable structural characteristics. That is to say, even as a subordinate community, the African American community has several degrees of freedom at its disposal within which it could transform its social economic structure and thereby markedly increase the economic and social well-being of its constituents, as well as increase its socioeconomic power as a whole. However, such benefits can only occur through formulation of enactment of a nationwide, nationally administered, coordinated initiatives. Furthermore, such initiatives can only be realized by an African-centered community, African American community, whose individual constituents self-consciously perceive themselves as members of an African nation in America, and who behave in accord with that perception. What does that mean? As I heard, and there are many people who are very articulate in talking about the stock market and talking about which corporations and dividends and all these, and I think it's appropriate for us to be familiar with those dynamics. It's still is America is still the largest market in a sense. So it's going to take that balanced approach to have that analysis. My concern, and this is where I need more conscious individual support. See what happened. Amos Wilson was ostracized because of putting these theories out, and it would have been nice if persons like Dr. Jeffries and a few of the other elders who were out here around his time would have more so protected him and supported his work early on, or even many of the Kemet scholars that are halfway making a living off of the work of Dr. Ben. But I'm just wondering, it's just like now with him, Dr. Amos Wilson, not having various, and I've learned and observed, his life and how he left us too soon. And I had to ask myself, who's going to carry this banner? And I don't see anyone giving him that level of credibility and support, as well as understanding that, for instance, many of the black bourgeoisie class, if you will, for the most part, are oriented towards a sharecropper type of mentality, and the idea of wealth for them has been created within this alien culture that, in fact, does not reward true nation building. And this is why our tastes have been, what's the term? We've become consumer oriented, and we think as products that we get as if these products are going to make us. So this is why, in fact, the ownership control of the means of production and things are critical. And this is where, for instance, with myself, I have to understand that, yes, I may not necessarily, I'm going into different circles where these individuals, have absolutely no clue about, economics, a broad global historic analysis of economics. We think that it's about money per se, when in fact, of course, it's about people power, but also our intellectual power. And it's unfortunate that we give the wrong leaders the platforms, and we go and spend money on them and continue to enrich them and get them speaking more and more and more. And this is why these people are on radios, even like the folks in Baltimore that continue to bring Dick Gregory, or the one that keep having them on a radio show, or many of these other individuals who are not organizing and mobilizing and creating strategic alliances and joint ventures to partner with several different of these companies. And even what's really more sad, because I mentioned something to this effect, and I didn't mention Dr. Boyce Watkins' name, but even after I, just post a picture of this book, these, real immature, they think they know stuff because, their little $5,000, whatever little crumbs that they may get out of the stock market. And not to suggest that, I'm totally against the stock market, but again, why do we, continue to believe that we're gonna, why are we gonna continue to believe that that's the only solution, is to keep giving our money to our oppressors? And not to suggest that I'm fair and objective, and I realize that several major corporations have had uh, capital to some level, but I believe that it's all in your mind, in terms of what good are you truly doing. So I'm not necessarily suggesting that individuals, every operation have to be authentically all a person of African descent, but I feel that it could be a disservice on some levels. For instance, for Dr. Boyce Watkins, whom talks black on some levels, uh, to have ignored the work of Dr. Amos Wilson for quite these numbers of years, and even many of these other. I'm speaking of young ones, even the New York people, Polites, and these other individuals. Never, 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 never mention the work of Dr. Amos Wilson, and I'm just like, it's really it's almost like treasonous. It is rather treasonous to his legacy for these individuals to not actually give the people the opportunity to read for themselves and think for themselves. And so this is why my work is valuable, whether anyone comprehend it or not. The places I go, the meetings I arrive at, and people that I expose this to, key individuals that I expose this work to over the years, certainly has done what I believe is perhaps uh, the most relevant, transformative, strategic work out here. And so I believe sincerely, for instance, as we do work on the other end, and when I call for 100 black men to come to this concert this Friday, uh, where Chris Brown is going to be, in 50 Cent, and French Montana, a few others, and it's unfortunate that many of the not too conscious individuals, they like, who he think he is. So for you all that's been rolling with me over the years, watching and observing my work, you have to really raise yourself up. You have to. I'm gonna, you've been raised up. You've been, shall I say, given a charge, if you will. You've been given an informed, scholarly, historic analysis over the years that at this particular time, not just theoretically, but what I know, that the things that I'm a part of in terms of how to best implement these things. And so I feel that at this particular time, I am in the absolute best position, but I need more support. I absolutely need more conscious individual support uh, to move this thing forward. So, I shouldn't necessarily have to have this on one level, I need some people's support, but again, it's like people are so unconscious, they'd rather show up and laugh at a church with Dick Gregory, and pretend that they're being conscious by showing up to something like that, or go and talk about what some feminism is doing, or what the homosexual agenda, and not that I lack an understanding of both of these forces. And yes, and I think that Dr. Amos Wilson, he didn't have that level of time to predict these things, so they certainly have an effect. And I have spoke to these forces, of course, and I've gotten some pieces from some of these individuals, but I'm actually working as the center right now, the glue, if you will, of consciousness for our people. And so I say I'm going to reach out to more of the young people, the young people whose minds are clear, those that have potential and willingness to continue to absorb knowledge as I have. and to truly transform themselves to know what is important and what is the right vision based upon our history. And so again, I say if you all don't want to read all of the chapters, if you want me to, well, I'm not going to make copies of this book, but no, get the book, or if you want me to do a full lecture on this, I mean, organize 10, 20 brothers and sisters, and have me break down, the depth of what I've been working on and how I've been positioning certain types of knowledge and getting strategic knowledge out to our people. And so, if I had a good $100,000 right now, things would change. Absolutely. Things would absolutely change. No question, for sure. So I am absolutely certain of that because, and I'll show you. I'll show you soon because I'll get it one way or the other. So think good things are happening, brothers and sisters. Holiday Success Scholar. Check out. I just did another. We had a film talking about black films just last night. So that's one of the key things I'm looking at. We have to reach people in different ways. Had a good sister on. So that's on YouTube under elifemedia.net. I'm on each and every Mondays, 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So looking forward to getting some of the young Boyce students on with me next week. Yes, you like this shirt? I'm sorry, Harriet Tubman. I got the t-shirt, went to the museum. So that's right. So things are good, brothers and sisters. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. Again, Amos Wilson Blueprint. Holler at the Success Scholar. I'm out. Peace.